The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It's also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Thrilled to be here with you this morning. We literally just got me into the studio. I just arrived here because Los Angeles is having a huge traffic issue this morning. So I want to say thank you to Samantha for having it all ready so I could just wing in and get mic'd and we can get this show on the road. We're thrilled to be here with you this morning on this Thursday morning. This is our last Thursday in August, and I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. Actually, because the next one is September. But in any case, we've got a big show for you coming up, and we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. In fact, we talk about autism from a 360-degree perspective, looking at all of the different things that are entailed for all people in this community. I want to be clear about that, whether you're a parent, a teacher, practitioner, or you yourself are on the autism spectrum. You have a place in this community, you have a place on this show to get your questions answered, to say what your thoughts, feelings, concerns, and questions are. We really want to hear from you. In fact, the whole show is meant to be interactive. Samantha is going to show you some of the different ways that you can get in contact with us here at the studio, and also some of the ways you can watch the show. While she does that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a lot of things to do, but I want to tell you about a couple of specific things. First of all, if you want to start the live show, it's always playing either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. All you have to do is click on that little triangle that's on the computer on the screen. Now, to the side of all that, there's a series of white boxes that we call the live feature. It is completely free and interactive. If you put your cursor in the box that says your question, just type and hit enter, and it will show up here on my screen. Now, we did one show on Facebook Live, and the only thing different between these two things is that on Facebook Live, you get to see everybody's comments automatically, and you get to see who made them. And there's something that's lovely about that, right? But sometimes you don't want people to see that you're asking a question. Well, on our live feature, it's completely anonymous. No one can identify that it's from you. It goes through a filter that is me. So you don't get to see all the questions, but that allows you to put personal information in there, and then I don't share it. So you can still ask us questions on Facebook, and we will look and get those questions on Facebook, but this is also another way that you can do it anonymously. But just like on Facebook, it's free, it's completely available to you. You don't have to have a login, a username, a password to be able to do it, and you even have to log into Facebook to use that, right? We don't have that. There's no username to remember, and there's nobody going to ask you for a credit card, nobody going to spam you. That's just not going to happen. We don't know who you are. So please take advantage of that and use the live feature when you want to ask a question. We love to interact with you, but you can also do it on Facebook as well. All right, I do like to remind everybody at the start of the show that we have a great many experts that are here on the show, but I'm not one of them. I am a very proud autism mom. My son is 13 years old and he's amazing, and I'm so grateful every day for him and for all of the wonderful people that we had that helped us on this path and are still continuing to help us. But he's pretty spectacular. I wouldn't trade him for anything. And so that's my credential to be sitting here, that and my overwhelming desire to pay it forward and to help you to get to the resources that make sense for you. Just because we did something doesn't mean that it will be what's right or appropriate for you. And I want you to know that I do know that. But I will tell you, because all I have is my experience. From time to time I tell you about my experience, probably too much. And I'll try to rein that in. But here's what I want you to know. I care deeply about all of you and making sure that you get to the progress that you want to get to. So write in, put me to work. It doesn't cost you anything. Tell me if there's something that you're looking for, and I'll try to find you resources in your area that can help you to do what you're trying to do. How's that for a deal? Right? And it's free. Put me to work. I'll do my level best. I have a lot to pay forward, but not an expert. Okay. So as long as you remember that, it's one of those things we hold hands. And I always like to say, si se puede, because we can do this. We are doing it. We have been doing it. We find the way through, around, under. We find the way as parents to make sense of what's happening. We find the way to help the people who are on the spectrum to be able to get around things that are in their way, that don't need to be, and some that are in their way that we can't do anything about. We figure out the way under, over, through, whatever, right? We're going to find the way. So join us here and see what you can find and contribute, right? Put your question in. You know, when you ask a question, not only, I think, does it help you to claim, you know, your seat at this big table, this big spectrum table, but you have no idea how often your question helps somebody else because they didn't even know that that was a question that needed to be asked, right? I can't tell you the number of times that I have read somebody else's question and been like, hey, what? I don't even know what that means. What is that? Something I should look up? Is that something I need to look into? And it has led us down different paths for different resources. So ask your questions, my friend. And that leads us to something we fondly refer to here as jargon of the day. This is how we like to start out the day and come up with one word, one phrase, one acronym that tells us a little bit more about what it is that we're dealing with. So our jargon term for today is ABA. Yes, every once in a while we like to journey back to the beginning, and usually there's a reason why. And I think it's so important that we get good information. And I know in the very beginning on my journey, when my son, on the day that my son was diagnosed with autism, there was a developmental pediatrician who'd been working in the field of autism for 50 years. So I don't know how I could have found somebody who was more experienced to be in the room with me to diagnose him, right? And she said to me, she had a very thick German accent, and she said, yeah, autism. And you know, I have to be honest, that was not what I wanted to hear. It's not what I had hoped to hear, but I had been sort of mentally prepared to hear that. And I remember saying to her, so what do I do now? And she said, well, you take him home, in a very thick German accent that I can't imitate. She said, you take him home and you enjoy him. And I already knew that was going to be a problem because we had such challenging behavior in place. And so I thought, boy, as long as I don't ask him to do something, I can enjoy him. But what am I going to do if I have to ask him to do something? And, you know, is he ever going to go to school? How are we going to get him to learn anything? And I had heard a little bit about this thing that's on the screen, ABA. And I said, what about that AB? I don't remember what the last letter is. And she said, oh, you mean ABA? I said, yes, that. What about that? And she said to me, this 50-year veteran in the field of autism, the autism expert that my insurance had sent me to, the developmental pediatrician that I put my hands into, she said, promise me you won't do that with this child. And I said, really? Why? I've heard good things about it. I've heard that kids talk and kids develop and that sometimes you can't tell the difference between them and anybody else. That they have no disability, no visible disability. And she said, oh, yeah, no, it'll turn him into a robot. Those kids, they don't know what they're saying. Promise me you won't do ABA with them. And I tell you that I stood there and promised her. And I'm so glad that that's a promise I didn't keep. Our lives have been forever changed by the fact that I didn't keep that promise. But it set me on a journey of, it took me many months to find out different information about ABA than what this woman knew. And throughout the last 10 years, as I've gone places, met people and hosted shows and met so many different experts through both this show and the radio show that I did before this, I find over and over and over again that there are people who don't know what ABA is. They have formed an opinion based on things that they have seen or heard, but they have not truly seen a quality ABA program. And so I want to use the word ignorance, but not the bad connotation of ignorance. Just when we don't know something, we are ignorant. I certainly was ignorant when I stood there in the room with her and promised her that I would never do ABA, and I took her opinion. But one of the things that we try to do here is enlighten and empower. And so that's why every once in a while we go back and do ABA. And I just recently met a bunch more people who have that idea of ABA, that it's parrots, and that's all it is. So we're going to go over it again today in case somebody new is watching. Let's talk about truly what ABA is. All right, shall we? So we always start with an actual definition, which is sometimes really off-putting a lot of times, and I love to make fun of our actual definitions, and then we're going to give you a working definition. So our actual definition for ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. That's what the ABA is. It's the application of the principles of learning and motivation from behavior analysis. Well, now see, doesn't that explain it all to you? Right? We can quit and go home now. It employs procedures and technology derived from scientifically demonstrated principles of behavior to increase socially significant behaviors and decrease unwanted or inappropriate behaviors. I gotta tell you, if I was a new parent, new to the autism community with my child just recently diagnosed, I would look at this and go, I wouldn't want that. What unwanted, inappropriate behavior? What? I don't know what that is, and this does not make sense to me. And furthermore, if you Google ABA and videos will come up, and a lot of times it's a video of a kid sitting at a table, a little kid sitting at a table with a therapist who says something like, touch car, in a very animated, weird, strange voice that no one would ever talk in. And the child either does something or doesn't. Sometimes the therapist takes their hand and touches the car, and then the therapist goes, good job, right? And that's the example of ABA. And I don't know about you, but I look at that and I go, these people are crazy. Why? What? No, I don't want to do that. Of course that's going to turn my child into a robot. That's a good outcome, because my child's going to be up, and first of all, my child wouldn't have sat in the chair. What are you crazy people talking about? Okay, well, let's move on to our working definition of what ABA is, and then we're going to go down to some brass tacks. Okay, working definition. ABA is a proven method of increasing or teaching desired behavior and reducing unwanted behavior. Okay, so let's just go right to the basics. First of all, ABA was not invented for autism, okay? When I hear people say, what's ABA? And they go, oh, it's an autism treatment. Yes, that's true, but it's not the whole picture. ABA is proven scientifically to be the most effective teaching method for anyone in any circumstances. And ABA is a set, think of it like a tool set, a big tool set for teaching. That's what it is. And we want to teach two things. We want to increase some behaviors, and we want to decrease other behaviors. So what's on the increase side? We want to increase somebody's ability to communicate, right? When we're talking about autism, we want to increase their ability to be able to filter out different sensory things that are happening in their environment so that they don't make them crazy and feel like, when there's someplace, there are times when somebody on the spectrum wants to be someplace where there's a lot of sensory stuff going on, but they feel like they can't because it's so uncomfortable. So what if we could increase their tolerance to that? Wouldn't that be a good thing for them? And then decreasing other behaviors. So if somebody has a habit of kicking people, well, that's not going to serve them well in their life. And it's not going to be good for society as a whole, but it's not going to be good for that person. And if you think that there aren't a lot of people with autism in jail because of unwanted behaviors, I have to tell you, I've seen otherwise, right? So we want to decrease behaviors that don't help this person to succeed in the things that they want to do, and we want to increase behaviors that do help them and help them to learn new things. It's the same thing, and I talk about this all the time. They use ABA for corporations. They use it for Olympic athletes, trainers who train the Olympic athletes use the principles of ABA. They use this with very young children. They use this with senior citizens. Senior citizen homes use ABA. I would be willing to bet if you work for any kind of a business that has more than 100 employees, at some point they have had somebody who's trained in ABA come in and look at how can they help motivate your workers to be more efficient. I guarantee you that they've done that at some point, or they will, because it works. And the whole main principle of ABA is that in order for somebody to do something over and over and over again, it has to be reinforcing for them on some level. And it can't be just slightly reinforcing, it has to be meaningful to that individual. So good quality ABA is going to follow that principle. And there's, we've have other jargon about what that principle is, but I call it rule number one. It has to be reinforcing. There has to be a paycheck. And a paycheck to you may not be a paycheck to me, may not be a paycheck to the person sitting next to me, right? The paycheck is individual to the person. So here are some things that I love about ABA. It's built on this whole principle of offering a reward for doing something, because a paycheck is a reward, not punishment strategies, okay? And here's the other thing, is that it has to be, in order to be good quality ABA, individualized to the person, because that reinforcer has to be specific to the person. And it has to be specific to the moment, because maybe on a Tuesday, I can ask you to clean your car out, which you hate to do, because I can say to you, listen, as soon as you clean that car out, I'm making a chocolate cake, and I'm going to give you a big piece of chocolate cake. So go clean the car, and then you and I are going to sit down, and you're going to have a cup of coffee and a piece of chocolate cake, and I know that that's the thing that really excites you, right? And on a Tuesday, you go, yeah, you know what? That's worth it. I will go clean the car out, and then we are going to sit and have the chocolate cake. But then you have the chocolate cake and it gets to be Wednesday, and I go, okay, so now we're going to do your taxes from last year, and I'm going to give you a piece of chocolate cake. And you go, I don't think I want the chocolate cake, right? Because A, you've already had chocolate cake, and chocolate cake B is not enough to get through taxes. I'm sorry, right? For a lot of people, no, chocolate cake isn't going to do it for me, right? So the reinforcer has to be specific, and it has to be current, because our moods change and our desires change, and what will fulfill us, what will motivate us to do something that's hard for us, changes for all of us, not just for individuals who are on the autism spectrum. So when people are using ABA as an autism intervention, it means that they are going to use those principles to increase behaviors that we want to see and decrease behaviors that we don't want to see. And then immediately our head goes to, oh, well, we're going to punish those people when they do behaviors that we don't want to see. Well, in fact, for autism and for ABA with autism, what we see that we do is that I like to think of it as, what was explained to me as a parent is that when my child would do something that we really wanted him to do, I needed to think of it as though a light switch was being flicked and the party was on. The party that was specific to my child. And we party. But when he did something that was not a behavior that we wanted to see, we just didn't turn on the light switch. So it was the absence of the party. So there was no lecture, because lectures don't work for anybody, but especially for kiddos on the spectrum, going, now we talked about this, right? None of that. It was just a non-reaction. There's no, because if I'm doing this, that's attention. And sometimes our kiddos get confused about, oh, well, I'll take attention in whatever way I can get it. So non-reaction, but do something good, light switches on, and the party is happening. I love when people understand ABA. I love how the world works when people understand ABA. I get so excited about it, and it's frustrating to me personally when people naysay ABA without having experienced it. So I hope that if there's anybody within the sound of my voice who it has not added ABA into their repertoire, even in a small way, I hope that you will reconsider, because amazing things happen and it is a great teaching tool. Now, are there a lot of different steps to ABA for autism? Yes. Is one of them included in it, sitting at a table and doing touch car? Yep, it's one of the steps. It's not the be all end all. If you think about all the different things that you have to do to learn a new skill and how you want to start small and graduate big, that's the toolbox for ABA. And that sitting at a table and touch car, one of the early lessons. That is not how it ends up. Watch the A word, our A word, not the, well, watch the Sundance one too, but they're not doing ABA on that. But watch our A word to see the progression and how happy the kids are and how happy the parents are. And the kids aren't being forced to be anybody other than who they are, but they're being given a way to communicate their needs. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff. Good quality ABA. I call it the autism miracle in my living room because, man, it was really good. All right, moving on. I'm taking too much time and we got big guests today. We always have a question of the day for you that we love when you have a chance to answer it on Facebook. That's always a really cool thing. And our question for you today, since it's very back to school time, do you believe that autism should be classified as a disorder? Do you think, because this is a hot topic of discussion right now, that right now we have ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. Do you think that that should be the only classification for autism? And do you think that disorder is the right word? Please write in on our Facebook and let us know what you think about that. And we also always have a topic of the week. And can you guess what our topic is? It's right there. Letting go of old ideas about everything, about how we thought we were going to be, how we thought our kids were going to be, how we thought that our life was going to go, how we thought other people were going to react. I had to let go of my old ideas about ABA because my doctor had not let go. So I had to let go in order for my child to make progress. I had to let go of so many antiquated ideas of what I thought my life was going to look like. And I see my son now at the age of 13 looking at his life and letting go of some ideas too in order to free himself to move forward, to be who he is. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we've got an amazing show where we're going to ask you to let go of some old ideas about how teachers are trained, how BCBAs are trained. We're going to be asking you to let go of old ideas about, can our kids work? Should our kids work? Should they own their own businesses? We're going to be doing all of that. Because on today's show, we've got some exciting folks for you. First up, really excited, we've got two ladies from New Mexico who are changing the face of autism in New Mexico, and I couldn't be more excited to meet them. Patty, and I'm going to mess up their last names, Patty Weigand and Jocelin Tilton. They're going to be with us. And then we've got a taped interview that we did with Picasso Einstein that we're going to be showing a little bit later on, talking about their new program online for parents to help them to get ready for their kiddos to look at entrepreneurship. And then we're going to join Joanne Lara a little bit later on in the second hour. Joanne is amazing. She's the founder of Autism Works Now and Autism Movement Therapy. She's been doing some very exciting work that we're going to talk with her about. And we're going to talk a little bit about voting and what we should be doing to encourage more individuals on the autism spectrum to get registered to vote and get prepared to vote. It's a very big election year, a lot at stake for a lot of people, and it really doesn't matter what side you're on, right? It's important to vote. This is, in this moment in time, we can hash everything out later on, but in this moment in time when the deadline is coming up in so many states to register to vote, we want anybody who is on the spectrum who is listening to get excited about getting registered to vote, and all the parents of individuals who are on the spectrum who are in voting age to get registered to vote. All right? We're going to take a break, and then via Skype, we're going to be joined by Patty Weigand and Jocelin Tilton. So stick with us.
What would you do if your child was hurting?
If your family's future was uncertain.
If help seemed out of reach.
Have you been given no hope?
TACA means I am not alone in this.
This is the reality for families affected by autism, and today, the number of children with autism is growing more rapidly than ever. TACA unites these families and ensures that they do not have to fight this battle alone.
Our oldest son, Jared, who has autism, when we first took him to the doctor to get the diagnosis, you know, it's so sad because they offer you nothing. There's no help, there's no hope.
One of the things that you learn with autism is being very grateful for even the small milestones. You know, when you first get the diagnosis, you go through all the range of emotions. You know, this can't be happening. Why is this happening? You have to get to a point where it's the emotion that has to be leading is, what can I do? The first thing that struck me was walking to a room and seeing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And there is this very strong community that's already set. And something I still today associate with TACA the most is hope. To me, that's what TACA means. TACA means hope.
It's like you've got all these dreams and goals of what your son's going to do, and you get your diagnosis and you're sent home. And that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no, here's autism, here's what we're going to do to make your life better and help him. It's strictly go home and try to process it and go on the internet. It was devastating, and you just, you know, you go through this 3-week of depression and then you snap out of it. You have to. And then you start making phone calls and trying to figure out what is autism and what are we going to do. And then we found TACA, and it was life-changing.
Autism, there really is no definitive answer. It is trying to find the resources that are out there that can assist you to help your child so that, you know, you just don't feel so helpless at those particular moments.
There was direction and there was hope and there was a little ray of sunshine that he's going to be okay and we're going to be okay. I always look back and think we would never be where we are. Carson wouldn't be where he is at without TACA.
So 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism, and that put our whole family into a tailspin. There were so many different ideas and things that were not proven. Nobody knew what guidance to give us. We had no direction. And then we found TACA. They helped give us a path to follow, help give our son a better future and make him healthy and put him back onto the road of recovery. When your son's first diagnosed, the first thing you hope for is, gosh, I just want my son to speak. I just want to be able to communicate with him in some way. Then you want a little more. You want him to go to a regular school. Then you want him to potentially have a real life and go to college. So you're always hoping for the future of your child. My son is a happy, healthy, vibrant young boy that's going to turn 15 really soon. And we couldn't be more pleased, and without TACA, I don't think we'd be in the place that we are today. We believe the future is not defined for many affected by autism. There is hope and direction for these kids and their families. TACA is dedicated to providing community, support, education, and hope to families affected by autism.
At TACA,
At TACA,
At TACA,
We are families with autism helping.
helping.
helping families.
helping families with autism.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am 19 years old, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 6 years old. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in the United States, but I am living proof that with the right treatment, hope is possible. My future is not limited. Today, I am attending Fullerton Community College, and I run for the cross-country team for fun with my friends. It makes me feel proud when I think about my progress. Chances are you know someone affected by autism. Show them they are not alone and help others get on the road to recovery. Contribute to Talk About Curing Autism today.
Back to Autism Live. I'm really excited because if you know me, you know I'm a former teacher, and I get really excited when we talk about training people to deal with autism, whether it's teachers or BCBAs. And the next two guests that we have joining us right now via Skype are women who are on a mission, and they're training people. And so I love and adore them and haven't met them yet, but I love and adore them anyway. So right now via Skype from New Mexico, we have Patty Weigand and Jocelin Tilton. There they are. Welcome, you guys. So thrilled to have you here with us on Skype. We were having a little bit of sound issues, so we're going to give it a try with just the Skype sound, and we're going to see how it goes. But let's start, ladies, by having you tell our audience what your titles are and where you work.
So I'm the Autism Support Specialist for Santa Fe Public Schools. I work all throughout the district. There's about 27 schools, and there are about 117 students with autism in our district, and we have a few classrooms that are designated for highly structured classroom settings that we work very closely in those classrooms with the teachers and the staff and EAs and parents, etc. To basically make sure that we're doing the evidence-based practices that are needed for, best instruction for students with autism. So,
and I
as well as working.
I just got to tell you, even hearing that, I just want to hug you because the attitude that you have about this is so great. And I started the show today by saying that people need to let go of their old ideas, and a lot of times people feel like it has to be contentious with their school district, and people like you are paving a way, and we, the parents, need to let go of those old ideas because there are amazing people like you. But Patty, talk to us about your title and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Dr. Patty Weigand. I'm a board-certified behavior analyst, and I am an employee of Santa Fe Public Schools, which Jocelyn and I were just actually talking about the importance of having staff such as ourselves employed as compared to contractors. And so I largely work with the special education and students who have behavioral problems. But Jocelyn and I work together also in developing and working with staff to train them for all these special practices that we have that are evidence-based, and so we kind of work as a team.
I got to tell you, the way I found out about you guys is that somebody who works for CARD sent me an email and said, Shannon, you got to know about these two women. They're like so amazing, and they're doing something really fantastic in New Mexico, and we got to let you know about it. And so I want you to tell folks at home what it is that they were referring to that you guys have been doing that is just so, and they were there and saw it and said it's spectacular. So tell the folks at home what you've been doing.
Well, where to start, first of all?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is our specialized programs, I guess, or special programs that we have, and really working intimately with those teachers and staff members to train them, to coach them, to mentor, to work towards collecting data, progress monitoring, making sure the best practices are being used. So that instructional training is one of the things that we do together. And one way we're able to do that is we have a summer, what do we call it, Summer Institute?
The summer autism
training. That's what it is. It's a 5-day autism training that we were able to learn ourselves through a model called the Heartland model out of Iowa, and we were trained and brought that back to Santa Fe Public Schools and have been leading that, and we've been able to train about 250 teachers both, and related service staff members and general education teachers, which we have a team of trainers that we work with that have learned this model as well, and we do this amazing 5-day program. So that's like probably the beginning point.
Yeah. And
then with ongoing training.
The unique thing about this training, Shannon, is that we actually have students as part of the training. So we have individual students who are on the spectrum, and they actually allow us to help teach people how to teach them. And so it's a very structured, it's very intense 5 days. We go through the theory, sort of like the day before, and the following morning, the trainees work with the students in teaching them certain skills.
And I gotta say, this just makes so much sense to me, but and I, whenever I can, I'm talking to people about what are we doing to get our teachers trained, what are we getting to do, and the people who tend to agree with me go, well, we're teaching the special ed teachers, but my question is always, are we teaching all of the teachers? And so I guess that's where I want to start with you guys. Do you start with just the special ed teachers, or are your gen ed teachers there too?
Our general educational teachers are with us as well, and one of the things that's great is that we can identify what students are moving into certain classrooms with the teachers, and we ask those teachers that are going to receive those students to come to our training the summer before they receive their students. So not only are they there at the transitional meeting, but they're there to get the specific strategies and overall understanding and general characteristics of autism, and then we move into communication, structured teaching, social skills, independence and curriculum for that 5 days. So the general education teachers are part of it, and they're just amazed about, first of all, they get a real good look at what special ed teachers need to do, know, and learn, and then they have a really good sense of what about children with autism, because we have five children from preschool through high school with different functioning levels and different visual schedules that they're using, object, line drawing with word, written word, embedded schedules. They get to see their different communication styles. They get to see different social skills and visual supports that we're using to teach the students. So they get to really be part of it all and work with the students at different levels throughout the 5 days.
And they also learn about how important it is to structure tasks so that they visually speak for themselves, using the strengths of the students' visual processing, that we take a lot of time in helping them learn how to adapt activities for the student with autism.
And then we're able to go into the classrooms and, be supportive and see, and just even go in and observe and then say, okay, well, we see that you might need this visual support. Many of our classrooms here in Santa Fe, we're very lucky, have smart boards, and a lot of our teachers utilize these in general education settings. And so it's just simple things like posting on their smart board, like the schedules, or making sure that written directions are for all students. It's a great teaching practice to use, but making sure that they're using some of these strategies or noticing where they're using them and giving them that feedback that they're doing a great job, and they might be able to do this or see this.
I got to tell you guys, it's hard for me hearing this not to want to cry, because I just want to give you guys awards for what you're doing, because this is what has to happen. And yet, it's so amazing that you guys are doing it. I wish that more people were doing it. So I want to ask you, what do other states need to know about the benefits of what you're doing and how you set it up so that more states and more places can be doing this all-important kind of work?
Well, I think it's just basically important to understand the population and to also understand the evidence-based practices in terms of how to instruct the population and also to make the learning experience positive for them. Jocelin and I set up one classroom for 2 weeks. It took us 2 weeks to set up one classroom for 4 children. And so the difference is, the second they walked in the door on the first day, they knew exactly where to put their backpack. They knew exactly how to check their schedule, and it made things a lot smoother for them. It was a very positive day. They enjoyed the environment. They had the opportunity to explore it. So they have the needed structure and predictability at first, knowing that it's going to be a little bit of a rough start, but we have everything ready the second they walk into the classroom.
And we're actually showing some pictures that you guys sent us so that people can see how organized and how visual you have the classroom set, because that's key for a lot of our kids to success. And I'm wondering, you guys, if you could talk a little bit about what, because this wasn't always in place. What inspired you guys and said, hey, we're gonna let go of our old ideas, and we're gonna rethink this, and we're gonna have 5 days in the summer, and we're gonna get a jump on this. What inspired you to do that?
Well, I would say it's the director. To go back on your former question, what should other states know? It's really about the leadership staff of school districts. We had a special ed director here that this was really her passion. We had started a classroom specific with students specifically with autism, and I was the teacher at that time. I think that was 8 years ago. And you can read and you can do as much research and you can have everything, but until you see it, know it, and really are trained in it, it's a whole different ball game. And when you have someone that's helping to mentor you through things, that really helps. But because of her name is Trisha Elma, I'll just put that out there. Her leadership and her guidance, she really is the one who said she had come from Iowa and had known this model, and she sent Patty and I the following year after I had that one classroom, and we were able to come back with it. So I think that would be.
It's actually it was actually several weeks of training with Iowa over several years. So this wasn't a one-shot deal where you just go in there and leave and feel like you can reproduce those practices. But it takes a lot of support from your leadership. It takes a lot of commitment and
the funding.
And funding, and that's a part of this. And I think we can't leave that out of it, but clearly enough people in your leadership have prioritized this. But I'm gonna guess that somebody pushed for it in the beginning, but that it's continued because you've seen good results. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys have seen happen as a result of all the things that you've put in place.
Well, I would say that what I've seen is more highly qualified teachers that feel very comfortable working with this, our population of children with autism, and they're asking great questions, and students' progress is just remarkable, and that is what is truly amazing. I mean, starting it in preschool, these structured classroom settings, giving them what they need and supporting the teachers, and then seeing them move out of classrooms into the general ed population and being successful and moving through into high school and secondary settings. So that's, to me, that's been the most
and I've
powerful.
definitely seen a significant reduction in behavior referrals that involve students who have autism. I don't even think anymore I see any students with autism as part of the behavior team, because they have the structure and the support that they need, and they are taught communication skills. So I virtually lost the job with the behavior supports in autism. So we work together to set up the classrooms.
Love it. And for anybody who's watching who's still like, oh, I don't know, from safety to what the goal is, which is to educate children. I would think that this helps with everything, both those things and everything in between. And I know as a former teacher that when you give a teacher tools, you change the world. Yes. But this expectation that teachers were supposed to know this on their own, I think we've proven that doesn't work. Teachers need tools, and you guys are putting them in their hands. In fact, I want to clone you, and I want to know, have you guys thought of putting together a book or a series of DVDs or something so that people could learn from what you're doing?
We haven't really thought about it. We just asked the question.
Well, I want you to start thinking about it. Right? And now we gotta switch gears a little bit, because it's not just teaching teachers that are already in the school setting. Dr. Weigand, I want you to talk a little bit about your work training BCBAs, the next generation of BCBAs.
Yeah, that's here in New Mexico, one of the things that we do, have some limitations in terms of human capital, and so that is a difficult part of it. When I came to New Mexico in 2006, so that was 10 years ago, I was the only BCBA in the state, and the state didn't even hear of BCBAs. They didn't even know whether or not what they should do with them. And now we have probably, I think, around 60, 45, 60, a large part of them coming out of the university as in the teaching program. But what I can do here in Santa Fe Public Schools is help with them getting credentialed and providing supervision and some direction in that way. And so we have so far one person who's gone through the supervision and will be sitting for the exam shortly, and we're starting with another staff person. So it's like grandfather's teeth, you know, they're few and far between, but we're slowly building that clinical capital. The academic capital is there. We have those professors at University of New Mexico. We just need now to get people in people's homes and bring these services there.
Well, amazing.
As well as in the classroom.
Amazing the work that both of you are doing in all those different ways. Now, there's a rumor that you guys have watched Autism Live and sometimes use some of the material that we have used. Is this true, or is this just people trying to make me feel good?
No, this is very true. I'm also a university professor for several ABA programs, and I find that, especially in the online learning situation, that sometimes having a visual to look at when you're talking about things like differential reinforcement or behavioral momentum, that it's sometimes easier to see things in action. And so we use a lot of your programs, especially, and we use it in the training too with our 5-day autism training, because what I really like is your jogging of the day. Okay. You go through extinction and you go through 3-term contingencies, and those are just, it's really nice because it puts it in very simple, understandable, user-friendly terms that sometimes I can't find the words for because I'm too BCBA in my head.
Now you got to be honest though, does it ever make you break out into hives because I've gone off on a tangent that isn't right?
No. I think it's good, you know, those tangents are important because it's actually giving the listener and the viewer some processing time. But I remember you used one example of a light bulb or a light switch that was no longer working, and you used the example when you were talking about extinction burst.
Yes.
And it's just, it provides such a real, very grounded example that anybody can relate to. And that's the beauty of your program, is presenting these very sophisticated, scientific-based concepts in a way that anybody can understand it, and that breeds the success of the implementation.
Shannon, I have to tell you, sometimes in the afternoon, I'm here until about 6:30 at night, and a lot of my, this is an office with a few people in it, but after they've left, I'll turn on Autism Live, and it'll play in the background of what I'm, like the new weekly, episode or something, and I'll play it in the background while I'm doing work in the office. So.
Oh man.
That's why I also use Autism Live.
Wow. You make my day.
It's important for me too, just even parents' perspectives, and always not only just in my community, but actually hearing things in other communities and other states, and I enjoy the show. So
the parent part of it is so important, Shannon. We with our 5-day autism training, one night out of the 5, we have a parent panel where we have parents it could be of the students who are participating in the training, or it could be any parent of any student in the district who has autism, and we have a parent panel. So they come in for our 25 trainees, and we ask them some very difficult questions. We ask them questions about, when did you first recognize something was different? What is the worst fear in the future? And there's not a dry eye in the room when we go through that. But it presents what we want our trainees to understand is what the parents go through and how it's important for us not only to have expertise, but to also have that compassion and that understanding and that support for parents who live with it 24/7.
Well, I appreciate you guys more than you know. You know, there are days when we do our show, we call it the little show that could, and we don't know where it's going and who's using it. And we made a decision early on that we were going to put it in as many places as we could find, that we could put it, that it could be free, that people could download it, and that people could use it in whatever way that they wanted, at whatever time of day that they wanted, so that maybe we could be helpful in some way. And a lot of times we don't know, you know, so we did not know that you guys were watching. We did not know that you were listening in and showing it. So it made our day.
That we're groupies.
Well, no, please, I'm groupies of yours. No, it made our day that we could help. And so my next question is to you: what do you wish we were covering that we haven't covered yet? Is there jargon that we haven't done that you want done? Did I lose you?
You know, no, I think we're still here. Okay. You know, you asked earlier about DVDs or a book or something, and I'm just wondering if your venue would not be a good avenue to cover some of these very these evidence-based practices, to have some demonstration of them, and then and also to, not only just to have the theory and the science behind it, but also what it looks like when you implement it. You know, I mean, I think that you know, that would reach a lot of people, and better than DVDs or books, I think.
Well, maybe we should collaborate, ladies. Maybe we should collaborate. I have a camera. I have a studio that travels. We'll have to talk about that. And in the meantime, though, if there's something specific that, you know, we always take requests from everybody. So we would certainly take them from you, because truly it touches my heart as a parent and as a former teacher and as somebody who sees what the possibilities are. And who hates the roadblocks. I hate it. I've spent the last 2 days talking to a parent who can't even get her school district, even though she has diagnoses from 2 places, can't get them to do an IEP for her child with autism spectrum disorder. And you know, though, that is maddening to me. And I think a lot of us get caught up in those stories and get to feeling like, well, the school is against us. And you are the perfect example of a school who has said, we're going to put education first, and we're going to be inclusive in that, and we're going to listen to IDEA and give all of our kids a free, appropriate public education with a floor of opportunity in which to access the curriculum. You guys are doing that, and sometimes that's hard to do, and it's impossible to do unless you give the teachers tools. And that's one of my soapboxes. So man, you're my heroes. You're getting it done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So where can people go to find out more information about what you guys do, and both the BCBA stuff and the teacher trainings for the younger grades, K through 12?
We're looking
at how can they reach you?
My email address is jtilton, Tilton, at SFPS, so that's Santa Fe Public Schools, SFPS, K12.nm.us.
Okay. I know some teachers that I want to refer to you guys so that they can see that this can be done, and some administrators that I want to refer as well. And I hope that everybody that is having a problem with their school district takes this, gets the link to this interview, and send it to your school administrator to let them know what's possible. Truly, I thank you guys so much, and this is just the beginning of a long conversation that I hope to be having with you guys for years to come.
Excellent.
All right?
Thank you so much.
We're going to collaborate. I'm going to be in touch. Thank you so much. I'm coming to New Mexico, so I'm gonna drop in and see you guys. All right.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Amazing, amazing. I hope that fills you guys with just the hope of what can get done when we align ideals with action. Ooh, it gets me so excited. Okay, we are running a little bit late on things. Samantha, would you like to go to the A word, or should we show the Picasso Einstein next? Which do you have queued up? Okay, we're going to do Picasso Einstein. We love the folks from Picasso Einstein. They're based in Florida. But these folks, they work on something really specific locally, camps that help teach individuals on the spectrum and who have other disabilities and other things that are in their way to become entrepreneurs. But they were on the show once and we talked about the fact that not everybody can get to Florida. So they have something new and exciting with a webinar that's coming up in just a little over a week here that you can be a part of. And it's specifically tailored for parents so that we can help to prepare our kids to own their own business, to have their own business. It's one form of employment, and employment is a big deal. And after that interview, in just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Joanne Lara, who is the co-founder and creator of Autism Works Now. We're going to talk about jobs. And boy, you want to get real, Joanne will get it to the real place, and she's going to talk about voting and why we need to be getting individuals on the autism spectrum registered to vote. Oh, she's going to take you to church, let me tell you. So first, Picasso, Einstein, and then stick with us for more Autism Live with Joanne Laura after that. But take a look at these fabulous parents and what they're doing in Florida that you can take part in. Picasso, Einstein, and I'm going to shut up. Welcome back to Autism Live. We have joining us via Skype two wonderful people. From Picasso, Einstein, we have Boaz Santiago and Minerva Santiago, and they are amazing individuals who are helping to make a difference with individuals who have disabilities by empowering them to be entrepreneurs. It's a pretty amazing thing. We welcome them back to the show. Hi, you guys. How are you doing?
We're good. How are you?
We're good. We're so excited, and thank you for being so understanding, rescheduling us, because you were supposed to be on a week ago. And my son got sick, and we thank you guys for being so understanding and being willing to come back with us, because what you guys are doing is so important. I just think that you are leaders in this field. Talk to us a little bit about Picasso Einstein and what it is that you guys do.
Okay, well, Picasso Einstein got started because I'm a mom to two special needs boys. I have two boys with autism. One is 15 years old and the other one's 13 years old. And in my career, I've always done special needs planning and guardianship type work, and met so many families that really had no plans for their adult children once they aged out of the school system. And seeing how much talent most of the kids or adults had, and seeing that they didn't have anything planned after school was obviously a problem, and as far as I knew, there was no solution in sight. So both of us always being entrepreneurs, me having a special needs planning background, and Boaz always taught leadership and entrepreneurship to at-risk youth. It's kind of like we had a meeting of the minds and figured even for our boys, we didn't see any hopeful opportunities for employment for them, and decided as the ideal opportunity for us to begin teaching self-employment to our boys, and then it kind of slowly just grew into a program of our own to offer to other.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, when you started this, it was the idea that it was almost, well, not that it was almost, it was a camp that individuals could participate in and help to grow their skills and find their interests for entrepreneurship. And when we first had you on the show to talk about the camp, I was so excited about the idea of this camp. But you know, there were people writing in and saying, you know, why isn't there something like this in our area? And you guys really took that to heart and have created something that people can access. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, the premise behind selfemployed.org was really that we understood that families could not come to Florida, where we're located, to be part of our trainings. And so we thought that the education was important enough to really make it accessible to families all over the world, that the next common sense move was to, how do we replicate what we're doing in the classroom to an online virtual environment? And so, like you said, we had that conversation the last time we were on, and we had families contact us from other states. And so my wife and I, we just figured at this point, you know, families, regardless of where they live, deserve to have at least access to the education and the tools that they would need if they really did want to explore self-employment. So we recently launched selfemploy.org with the idea of allowing families who are already in a very complex situation to not have to get in their car or in an airplane and come all the way to Florida to spend time with us in the classroom, although that's what we would prefer. But we thought it was important enough to give them that access. So on selfemployed.org, we've launched it with a free ebook that we can get families started on the conversation on how to design a business that really fits the person. And we also have our first 2-hour training that we're doing on September 1st at 12 o'clock, which will dig in a little bit deeper about what it really means to develop a person-ventured business, meaning how do you design a business focused on the person and what they like and what they can do, as opposed to putting together a business and then trying to fit them into a box. And so this is where we're at right now. It's the first of what we hope to be many, many more online trainings to come, really with the idea of touching the lives of families all over the world. And if I could just say that we're really proud to have trained our first family in New Zealand just this past month. And it was so cool to be able to know that there's a family in New Zealand that is now using our model to start a small business for their son. And we're hoping to connect with families like that all over the world.
I'm grinning ear to ear, you guys, because I love to hear these stories of empowerment. Tell me a little bit about, for the online class, what, and I hear you saying it's a family affair, so families can participate in this. It's not just about the individual who has, you know, whatever disability that they have. It's a family affair. But what age do you think is the appropriate age to take the online class and to start working towards this entrepreneurial opportunity?
Well, let me just clarify that when we spoke to you the last time, we also had our lessons to learn. And what we had found was that we were engaging these incredible individuals with disabilities, but then sending them home to families that did not understand self-employment and subsequently were not at all supportive of it. And so we completely flipped our model on its head, and we said, we're no longer going to be engaging exclusively the individual with disabilities, but before we do that, we're going to require education, that the parents be educated first. So all of our programs from the point when we spoke to you moving forward has actually been educating the parents, which we feel is a pivotal change in the sustainability of any venture, whether it be traditional employment or self-employment. And so the entire selfemployed.org model as it stands right now is first and foremost to help the parents understand how to take lead in this self-employment venture, how to support it, and then most importantly, how to set it up so that it's sustainable, so that when these parents pass away, this business can continue to survive and provide the meaningful and purposeful employment that that person deserves, even after the death of the parents. So selfemployed.org at this point is really focused on helping the parents feel empowered so that they can subsequently go and empower those children of theirs.
I love it. I've said to you guys before, I love what you're doing. I think this is so smart, and I love that you're learning and growing and making it smarter and smarter. But so I'm a parent, and I've got a 13-year-old. Is that too young for me to start taking this class to help him, to support him if he wants to be an entrepreneur? Or
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, for any parent who does decide to take the 2-hour webinar in September, on September 1st, we have a video of a young boy who is only in 8th grade, who has autism, who has started his own online business, and they have clients all over the world. And so here's the deal, Shannon. If you start early with your child in pursuing self-employment, or at least getting them to explore what the opportunities are, you subsequently erase what we all know as parents as the transition years, because they will have had already 10 years plus of discussions about financial literacy, about employment skills, about business. And can you imagine how prepared the 22-year-old that's been talking about self-employment for 10 years is going to really be well off in regards to the transition phase? So the earlier, the better, without a doubt. And the fact that parents can take the lead helps that process of engaging younger children, because the parents are the one who are educated in helping them put it together.
And also, just to clarify, just because you take the online course now while your child is 13, it doesn't mean you have to launch your business now while they're 13.
Right.
You can continue on through the education process and maybe fine tuning, and then you decide when's the right time for you to launch. But we do have families that feel, it's never too early to start, and we don't disagree with them. We have a local family who has a daughter with Down syndrome who's 13 years old, and she's decided to start her own business now, and she's doing phenomenal. We're so proud of her.
Yeah, I gotta say, I absolutely love this, and I want to clarify a little bit too that this is learning about what the tools are and how to support, and eventually when, for instance, when somebody comes to take your classes where you are locally in Florida, this is not, I don't want people to misunderstand and think that they're buying into something that's multi-level marketing, or that it's a business and you're teaching them how to do that business. You really help them to define what it is that they're good at and what they might want to do so that they can create a business from the bottom up.
That is correct, Shannon.
Lovely
yes.
thing. And for everybody who's watching and listening and is worried about employment, and let's be honest here, being an entrepreneur is not for everyone, but having the skill set to know how to do it, I believe that is for everyone.
Right.
Sure.
Right, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you look at the selfemployed.org, or even at PicassoEinstein.com, we have a page called Job Creators, and what we've started is what we call the Job Creators Movement. So if you notice, we're not talking about business creation, we're talking about job creation. Because if someone can do one simple task and turn that task into something that yields even minimal profit, you have created a job by way of a small business. So we're not in the business of helping families create businesses. We're trying to help families create a simple job that the person can handle and manage and grow within that job on their own terms for the rest of their lives. So that's why when we talk about disabilities, there are no such disabilities that would make this person disqualified for our model. Any person, nonverbal, with all of the conditions that someone may think is, what they can't do it, is just a non-issue, because all you need to find is what can the person do, what does the person enjoy, regardless of their disabilities. And that's a good starting point. Okay. So that's what we're really trying to help families do, is focus in on the individual's abilities and things that they enjoy.
And the first webinar is going to happen on September 1st. And if people want more information for that, they go to selfemployed.org. Now, that first webinar, if that day doesn't work, are you recording it so that people could watch it another day, or do they need to be there live on September 1st?
They would have to be there live on September 1st.
But we'll have additional dates in the future.
Okay. So,
yes.
And people can find out more information about additional dates and that date at selfemployed.org. And they can also find out more information. You mentioned they can go to PicassoEinstein.com, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And if I could, Shannon, one of the best places for any family to find out what we're doing and where we're doing it is to go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Picasso Einstein. Everything that we do, every workshop we have, every individual that has come through our process, we share all of it on our Facebook and all of our social media. And that's a great place for family to kind of get to know us a little bit better before they make a decision.
And for people who are in Florida, where in Florida are you located? So if they want to take one of your in-person series of classes, where are you in Florida?
So we're located in Fort Lauderdale, or close to Fort Lauderdale. We're just maybe about 15 or 20 minutes west of Fort Lauderdale. But that's probably the one place that most individuals would recognize. But the city is actually called Pembroke Pines. But just as a side note, right now, we do not have any foreseeable dates in the near future for in-classroom engagements. What we're trying to do, Shannon, is instead of us doing the classes ourselves, we're trying to work with local organizations that already serve a population and then do those classes by way of the organization so that they can sustain it. Because if we do it, once the class is over, it's over. But if we help an organization learn how to do those classes and we help them teach those classes, then they can sustain that self-employment venture for the livelihood of that organization. And we think that's a more sustainable approach. So recently we just worked with United Way of Collier County. We worked with an organization called Adonis Autism. We just finished working with the Palm Beach School of Autism, which is in Palm Beach, Florida. And we're helping those organizations adopt our model and really make this whole movement more sustainable through their organizations.
So Boaz, if there's somebody in California who wants the curriculum to do this, they can contact you and talk about getting the curriculum so they can do it in California?
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, that is how we feel that this would spread the best, is if we empower other individuals and other organizations to teach our model using our curriculums, for sure.
So for anybody who's watching and you're looking at this and going, okay, I've got, a 12-year-old, I've got a 16-year-old, and you're staring down this path of, I don't know what's going to happen. I really think what a great way to start is to go to this webinar on September 1st. And again, you can get more information about that at selfemployed.org. And if you feel the fire already and you're like, okay, I get this, because you understand how exciting entrepreneurship can be because of all of the things that it affords you, right? The flexibility that it affords you, the empowerment that it affords you, and you know that you already want to do this, but you want the curriculum. I would suggest that you reach out to Boaz and to Minerva and see about getting that going with an organization local to you. And they can get more information about that at selfemployed.org, or they can always contact you through PicassoEinstein.com, correct?
That is correct, yes. And if I can just say, it's selfemploy.org without the ED at the end, just selfemploy.org.
So selfemploy.org, and I apologize.
Yes.
We've been spelling it wrong. Okay, selfemploy.org. Thank you for correcting that for us. Now,
no problem.
Also, just a second ago, we showed a flyer for an event that you've got coming up, and I'm going to ask Samantha to show that again. This is Trailblazing 2016, a one-day conference that's coming up. This is happening on Saturday, September 17th. And what city is this located in, you guys?
Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, in downtown Fort Lauderdale at the Broward Center for Performing Arts.
Okay, and this is a one-day conference looking at the future of disabilities, technology, and business. You guys are one of the sponsors for this event, and it looks like a fabulous event. There's a special rate of only $50, and you can get more information and get your tickets at www.trailblazing2016.com. Wonderful. I thank you guys so much always for the amazing work that you do. I think that you guys are rock stars. I'm so impressed.
Thank you, Shannon.
And I think, no, I really think that you're filling a need that's really important, and I get excited. You know, as a parent, sometimes I get so scared about what the future holds for my kid and for all of our kids. And then I get an opportunity to talk to people like you who are getting it done and trailblazing. That's really what you're doing. And you're making that trail for the rest of us to follow in your footprints. And I think that it's wonderful.
Thank you, Shannon. We appreciate it.
We're grateful.
So again, selfemploy.org, and you can also go to PicassoEinstein.com and check out Picasso Einstein on Facebook. Thank you so much, both of you, for being with us and for everything that you do.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Really amazing couple and amazing work that they're doing. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more Autism Live after these messages. Welcome back to Autism Live. I've just been sitting here and enjoying the presence of, first of all, that interview and watching it with Joanne Lara. Joanne Lara is, I promised you she's going to take you to church because she's an amazing, you are amazing. And I always love it when you come because you have such a light and such a love for so many people, and you work harder than any 12 people I know. And just for, isn't it right? She's not even going to try to deny it. That's how you know that it's for sure true. So Joanne, you have so many different credentials behind your name, but let's just talk about a few of them. You're the co-founder, and you are the driving force behind Autism Works Now, which we're going to talk about, and how important it is to get individuals to a job and have that job work out and give them the training and the employers the training. You created Autism Movement Therapy, which is this amazing thing, and you credential people around the world so that they can do autism movement therapy, and we'll touch on that a little bit. You're on a mission right now to get as many people registered to vote in this election here in the United States as you can.
That's right.
And that includes all of our adults who are on the autism spectrum.
18 and over.
That's right. And my goodness, you've done so many things. You've worked in the school district. You're a dancer in your very own right, which is why your autism movement therapy is so luscious and wonderful for our kids. And I'm leaving 35 million other things out.
National University. I'm very proud of that.
Yes.
10 years.
Yeah.
10 years with National.
Educating people, educating all of us.
Educating teachers.
Yes. Which is amazing too. We've been talking a little bit today about educating teachers and how important that is. So we've already touched on that a little bit. But
good.
You're also somebody who fights for the underdog.
That's
always.
Right. Always.
Always. And I'm lucky that I count you as a friend. I didn't know you until just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't even mention that for those of you, we talked about touch on the show years ago with Kiefer Sutherland, and if you were wondering why things were done so well with autism, that's Joanne, because Joanne was the consultant on that show.
Thank you.
And you've helped so many people on this road. And I will tell you that in the autism world, there's a lot of, everybody got to have their own and get their own, and sometimes it maddens me a little bit because I go, well, what happened till we were all in this together?
Right.
And it can happen. There are people who are seeing the light, and there are people who want to work collaboratively. But I will tell you that nobody sets the bar higher than Joanne does. You are totally collaborative, and it doesn't matter. Somebody needs something. You're like, all right, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to make that happen? And
I'm so humbled. Oh my gosh.
Well, I love you. I love you. And I love what you do. And I was saying the other day that, my niece, we always have this saying, a lot of people do, about, if you need to get a hold of the president, you gotta be less than 3 phone calls away. Right. And I was describing Joanne to somebody the other day, and I was like, okay, she would be my first phone call. She would be my, Joanne, because you would tell me what to do, where to go, where the life vests were. She's that kind of person. Okay?
The director.
Well,
directorial.
And willing, and the biggest heart, and people because you've been willing and know people and have talked to people and have put yourself on the line time and time again and said, oh no, that's not happening on my watch.
That's right.
And everybody respects you because of that.
Thank you.
You are very loved and respected. So if you didn't know Joanne before, now you do. Very good friend of the show. So what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to
voting?
Okay, let's take voting
I want
on.
to talk about how important it is for our 18 and up across the country to register and to vote. You know, a lot of individuals and families with disabilities think because their child has a disability, well, then, you know, cross that off.
Yeah, they just ruled it out. Like
And-
that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, like, okay, that's part of what he can't do, you
Right.
know, and now, as we know, we're really moving into what we can do, and we're emphasizing what we can do across the board, in the education system, in the service system, we're talking differently now. It's a new day.
It's about time.
It's
too.
a new day.
Yeah.
It's a real new day. But don't forget that the right to vote is exercising your right to determine what your life is going to look like after you transition out of a public school setting.
Now, there are probably some people who have questions because obviously there are some people who have conservatorship on their adult children.
Yes.
And so they're probably thinking, ooh, you know, can my child vote? And in some cases, they may have checked a box saying that their child cannot vote.
Right, and I believe that can be turned around, and I believe that you don't have to go anywhere in order to do that, but consult your conservator.
Because it might be different in different states.
Exactly.
And, you know, you might need to talk to somebody about that, but it's worth looking into. There are people who have adult children that they have not done a conservatorship.
That's right.
Because
So there's
it was so
no issue there.
overwhelming.
There's no issue.
Yeah, right. But they're probably thinking to themselves, well, don't you have to be a certain IQ? Don't you have to be a certain functionality?
Absolutely not. There absolutely is no criteria for voting. If you're 18 and you, bless you,
sneezing.
And you can register, you can vote.
Okay.
Now, you can register online at rockthevote.com. It's the easiest place to register.
Okay.
It's very easy. It just takes you right through the process. Now, it has to be 15 days before an election.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I preface that with 15 days out from an election. If it's closer to the election than 15 days, then you're not going to be able to vote. Your vote's not going to count.
But we're more than 15 days out now.
Absolutely.
So now is the moment in which to do this. So rockthevote.org.
I think it's a .com or .org.
Okay.
It's a Rock the Vote.
Okay, Rock the Vote. One way to do this. And for people who are concerned about what the requirements are, and we're saying, you know, there isn't, I think that's enlightening to a lot of people. But I think the basis of that question is, doesn't my child have to be informed to vote?
I think yes, and I think you're right, and I think it's important. And I'm not so sure that the education system is informing our kids in a special ed setting, especially kids that are 18 to 22 that are extended, you know, they're staying into the school system till they're 22. That means they have a moderate to severe disability. Now, we all know that doesn't always mean a cognitive disability.
Exactly.
Can be orthopedic disability, it can be cerebral palsy, any of the disabilities that are not cognitive, but what we call like the silent disability. I think that everything needs to be laid out, and this is what we're doing. And who do you want?
Exactly. And I want to stress how important that part of the conversation is that, you know, I'm a parent and I'm a helicopter parent.
Right.
And I'm one of those people that circles.
Right.
But every day as my child gets older, I learn about the division between what I want for him and what he wants for
himself.
And that I need to be so super respectful of that he is no longer 3, and that for all of our kids, regardless of what their adaptive skills are, regardless of whether they can tie their own shoes or not, they have the right to that.
That's right.
And that includes voting.
That's right.
And them having their opinion. You know, I certainly think as a former educator and as a parent that we want to put things in front of them to help them to be able to have informed choices, but we don't have the right to tell them who they should vote for.
We don't have the right to say you're not smart enough to vote.
Right.
That I haven't seen that. I mean, that's not a criteria to vote.
It isn't.
And people,
I think
you know
people
what?
don't know.
Many people say that to me, and families say that to me. Well, will they let him?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they will.
Yes.
Now, there are certain things we need to do to set them up for success in order for that to happen. Each state, it's different. Now, I think, voting is such a big deal in my family that every single time I have voted, and I have not missed a voting opportunity since my child was born or before that. I missed once because I got there and I'd moved 3 blocks and I didn't know that you had to re-register at the new place, and they denied me voting, and I about had a nervous breakdown in the voting poll. So one time I haven't been able to vote in my adult life. But every time since my child was born, I have taken him with me. We're talking, he was 3 months old.
He knows how to go to vote.
He was 3 months old, and I carried him in the thing, and I was like, are you going to let him go in with me? And they were like, sure. He goes with me now at 13. And I once again, I show, in California, we have the little pens that mark, and I take it out and I show him lining up, did my pen work on each one of these things? And we talk about the hanging chads.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Take those
all
off,
of that. And let me tell you that there were times when he was 5 that it went by and he didn't know.
But he gets it now.
But he certainly gets it now.
Yeah.
And I think that it's an important thing to physically do it time and time again.
Absolutely.
And I think back to I grew up in upstate New York, where they have the booths where you have to hold the thing and you have to turn it and the curtain closes behind you.
Right.
But so often there are places where you can take anyone to go and practice voting.
Right.
They were showing today on the news about places that you could go and you could see. Yes, they were.
That. Okay.
So I know you've got an event that's coming up in October here in California.
We do.
Talk a little bit about that, because you're going to have voting booths there for people to practice. Yes, I thought that was one of the things you told me that you were going to have.
Well, what it is it's twofold. We're being brought in a Democratic youth event, part of the Democratic Party, and we're being brought in to help to talk about just what we're talking about: register to vote and exercise your power and freedom to vote in a country where you can vote.
Yes.
And you can determine what the outlook for your life will be through voting process. Politics drives social living, education, and employment. Do not be fooled.
Absolutely.
Politics drives what our lives for our kids when they transition is going to look like.
Yes.
It's all about politics and what those laws look like and what the amendments look like, and IDEA.
Yes.
It's all determined by our politicians in our states, local, federal, state. So you want to be able to exercise the right to know what your life is going to look like and feel that you have a hand in it, as we all do. That's what it means to live in a democracy. So the parade is that for the first time we're having, we have Gay Pride Parade, we have a number of different pride parades. It's the first time we have a Disability Pride Parade in Los Angeles.
Nice.
It's going to be in Downey, and it's going to be on October 9th.
Yes.
And registration starts at 10, it goes from 10 to 11, then the parade till about 12:30, and then there's going to be like a grandstand area where the mayor of Downey will be there, Spencer Hart will be performing.
We love Spencer.
Rio Wiles will be performing.
Lovely. Soul Shaka.
Soul Shaka, exactly. A number of our Autism Works Now, Lacey Brinks, Luke Rose will be there, and I believe Chris Grayson will be there to talk. Will be again on microphone to say, hey, you need to get out and vote.
Yeah.
Now, I found out that speaking with Luke Rose and Lacey, and they've been on your show.
Yes.
They've been voting since they were 18. They're now 20 years old. They've voted for 2 years.
Right.
Yes, I'm registered to vote. Luke called me right back. I said, Luke, I texted, are you registered to vote? Just making sure.
Yes.
Called me right back. Yes, I've been voting for 2 years.
You got to love that.
Love that. Same with Lacey.
It's so important that we talk about this with all of our kids.
Yes.
And that we don't, if you've waited and your child is 18 or over, it's like when would now be a good time, right?
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah.
But I have to say, for those of you who are watching who have kids who are younger, it's still now to have the conversation and to start them on the process. But give them the tools that are appropriate for them now.
That's
and
right.
if they're going to go into the voting booth to vote, let's give them the tools. Let's get them into a practice voting booth. I love, in our family, I make my husband do this because I'm not only a helicopter parent, I'm a helicopter spouse. We get our booklets, you know, that come
and
in
mark
the mail,
them ahead of time.
and yes, and it shows exactly what the ballot is going to look like,
right.
and it says it details what the propositions are, and you get some time to sit with it. And a couple of weeks before the election, I sit and mark my booth, and then I say to my husband, okay, it's your turn.
Right.
Because I know, you know, you get there and, you know, there's all the signs at the
I
polling
take mine
place.
with me.
Oh, yeah. No, me too.
So I go right down.
But there's all the signs at the polling place, and then you get in and you have to sign your name.
That's
and,
right.
And for me, it's a little sensory overwhelming.
Right.
And then you step into the booth, and sometimes there's a line, and you know, and all of a sudden you're like, you know, Prop 54, was that the one where they're doing this or that? You can't quite remember. It's a lot of numbers. And so if it's already, then you're just copying what's in your booklet, and you've had some time to think it through, but you've got it all in your booklet.
That's right.
So we've been demonstrating that for my son for years.
Fabulous. So you're the model. Look, it's all about models. And for everything that we do.
A model, I'm not perfect about it,
No,
but I'm
does
saying,
it? No, we don't make a judgment on a model.
Okay.
A model is a model. A model, you do it, and they
Yes.
model it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so they're
Yes.
modeling what you're doing.
Yes.
Whether, you know, and I mean, and that can be a good or bad thing, as we know.
Sure.
So we always want to be aware that we are the models for our kids.
Yeah.
And they're looking for models. They're also looking for peer models.
Yeah.
I always say it's, you know, our kids love to model after their peers.
Yes.
Before an adult even.
Yes.
You know, so we want to get our kids as close to a neurotypical peer group as we can, because those are the best models in the world.
Yes, they are.
And so you're a model for a parent that votes and exercises your right to vote in a democracy. So whether, you know, that's a good thing.
Yes.
But like I said, we always want to be aware that we are the models, because
Yes.
when we're doing things that they're not so great, then we're still modeling.
Absolutely.
So that's an important piece to know.
And I will
remember.
also, yes, and I will also say that we go as a family to vote. We make time so that my husband can
that's
go
great.
at the same time, and we talk about it in the car. And we have not, my husband and I have not always voted for the same person.
That's right.
And we love to have him hear that, so that he hears, you get to have a difference of opinion.
There's
about
no right or
something.
wrong.
There's no right or wrong. It's your opinion about it. And then the other thing, the very ABA thing that we love and that we've built into him since he was little.
If you go vote, you get
the sticker
You get
that
the
says
sticker.
I voted.
Exactly.
And then we take a group family picture and we post it on
You
Facebook.
do?
We
I
do.
love that.
To show that we voted. And
Fabulous.
he's like, oh, I get the sticker and I got to take the picture again. But he
Right.
kind of loves it.
Oh.
And I always make a special dinner for election night, and then we sit and watch the
Wow,
election
you really-
returns.
oh,
I
it's
get into it.
amazing.
I get into it a little too much.
I love it. You're like Betsy Ross.
Oh, so for
I
all the
love it.
primary things, it's funny you should say that. The very first time I would ever
You
performed,
win as Betsy Ross.
No, the first time in first grade, I got to play Betsy Ross, and yes, ended up in a master's degree in theater.
I know.
You know,
Like
it's,
you never lost the
useful.
bug.
But anyway,
I love
yes,
it.
yeah. So
And also we have accommodations, and we're passing out pins at the Disability Pride Parade from the Democratic Committee
yes.
For Braille.
Oh, great.
Because evidently it's a new way that we're accommodating for individuals who are visually impaired.
Okay.
But you talked about the voting booth that we're going to have
Yes.
there. What we're doing is we are filming the Disability Pride Parade.
Yes.
And we're filming segments of it because we're going to submit that to the Democratic National Committee with the hopes, and we're getting a lot of encouragement from the higher ups. As you know, I'm on Hillary Clinton's Disability Employment Task Force team, so I've been, you know, kind of meeting new people.
Yes.
And this was my idea. And they were like, we love that idea. I said, we need to get the 18 and older vote, and we need to make sure that we're registered and we're voting if we're 18 and older. And how about a national commercial?
Yeah.
That's a 30 or 45-second spot. Love that idea.
Love that.
So that's where we are now. We were hoping to cut that,
Yeah.
edit that, a 30, 45-second spot of our individuals with disabilities that are going to not only talking about voting and registering to vote and voting, but are actually going into a polling booth. So we're going to have a polling booth there, and we're going to shoot that.
Yes.
With all disabilities, with individuals, because there will be individuals with all disabilities at this parade.
And I have to say, just because we're a non-party denomination show,
right,
is that regardless of what your personal party attachment is, it is important for all individuals to vote and to give the ability to vote to all individuals. So love that the Democratic Party is doing this and that you're a part of that, and we so appreciate it. But if that is not your party affiliation, don't let that stop you.
No, absolutely.
In fact, let that kick you in the rear end to get you to go and register to vote, so that you.
It's about registering to vote. Exactly. Yes. It's about registering to vote. And also, I wanted to say that our Autism Works Now, because many of our kids that'll be on the stand or and talking at the Pride Parade will also are also part of our Autism Works Now program, and we're in our second year for the pilot.
Okay, so let's take a break, and then let's come back and talk about what is happening with Autism Works Now, because it's really exciting. We love you. All right, we're taking a break. We'll be back. I can't talk anymore. We'll be back with more Autism Live and more Joanne Laura after these messages.
Hey guys, for the month of September, I figured I'd show you guys how to make a task completion chart to help your kids get through the hardest parts of the day. Parents have been writing into our host, Shannon Penrod, the hardest parts of the day are waking up in the morning, after school, and getting ready for bed. Please keep in mind you can always modify the task completion chart to focus on the skills that your family needs most. The template we'll be using today to make the task completion chart you can find at facebook.com/autism-live. All right, let's get to it. The materials you'll be needing are the template, cardstock, scissors, hole puncher, glue, pipe cleaner, Velcro, and photos or images. We find it more reinforcing for kids if you use images of themselves doing the tasks that you're trying to get them to complete. So what I have here to start off are photos of myself doing all the tasks that we're going to add to our task completion chart today. The first step you're going to be doing is printing the template from facebook.com/autism-live. I have it here, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim at the top. We don't need that, that's just totally excess. Now that I trim my 3 templates, I'm going to label each one with a different part of the day that we're focusing on, such as waking up, after school, and getting ready for bed. Now that I finished labeling the templates with the appropriate time of the day, I'm going to attach the photos that go with it. For bedtime, the tasks I chose were getting ready for school, putting away toys, putting on pajamas, and brushing teeth. Now repeat this for all the rest of the day. Now that I've added the photos to the template, I am taking this along with my heavy cardstock to hold all my tokens. I'm going to line them up and make 3 hole punches. I'm going to take this pipe cleaner and attach the pages together with it. We're almost done putting this together. Next, I'm going to take my Velcro. I'm going to put them underneath each picture. And then I'm going to add 4 on the very edge too. Now that I've attached the rough side of the Velcro to the template, now I'm going to take the softer side and add these to the tokens. You can use whatever you want for the tokens, whatever your child finds reinforcing. They could be stickers, images, spacemen, Pokemon, whatever they like. Before you use your task completion chart, it's really important that you do a preference assessment to see what your child finds reinforcing that day. Once you have that established, then you can tell them the rule for how this task completion chart works. So every time they get one of their tasks completed, they add a token to it. And the way the task completion chart functions is like a token economy. So after they put a token under each one of these tasks, they can trade it in for their reinforcer for the day. Now that you've made your task completion chart, hopefully your child will be able to use it on a daily basis and help them through those difficult times of the day. Well, until next time, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm here with Joanne Lara. We were just mentioning what's happening in Louisiana and how devastating it is for so many people in the Baton Rouge area, but I was telling her that Jem and I had just been to the Baton Rouge. Well, we were there for the ASA conference down in New Orleans, but we stayed over a few more days to go up to Baton Rouge because CARD, Center for Autism and Related Disorders, has a Baton Rouge office, and on the 18th of July, they were opening their newest office in Denham Springs, which is a suburb of Baton Rouge.
Right.
So, and the day before that was the day that there was the shooting of the police. It was a really difficult time in Baton Rouge. I mean, they've really had a hard time. But we were there, and we got to meet the families and see the new office and meet the kids and the staff, and just they welcomed us with open arms. We had such an amazing time there with them, came home, and now they've had in that new office, up 4 feet up of mud, and of course with the mud and the water comes all the unspeakable things that you can imagine, so that it's not just cleanup of shoveling out mud, it's extensive cleanup. And these families have lost everything. They don't have soap, they don't have toothpaste, and these are families of people who are therapists working with kiddos on the spectrum who just want to get back to work and have a room to work with. Right. And it's the families of the kids with, little kids with autism that don't have a pair of shoes, that don't have pants, that don't have diapers, that don't have a toothbrush. So all of the CARD offices have picked different families. And so each CARD office, here at corporate, we have 2 families that we're supporting. Okay. But at every CARD office, there's an opportunity, there's a box, and as the box gets filled, they send it off to the Baton Rouge office, and then they drive it to the folks in the Denham Springs area. So, and then if you look on my personal Facebook too, there's a place to donate money, and CARD is up to $10,000 was matching any money that was donated to send to the families. Okay. So I know sometimes we see these things and we think, oh, the devastation, and then we think, oh my gosh, can you imagine autism on top of that? And you think, what can I do? There are other places that you can donate to as well. I'm not saying this is the only place, but if you want to know that it goes directly to a family with autism, this is a way to do that. So
good. On your website and CARD as well.
On my personal Facebook, I have the link, and you know what? I'll either Samantha or I will put that on our Autism Live Facebook as well, so that people can have that as well. Good. So, but we said we were going to come back and talk about Autism Works Now. Yeah. This is an amazing thing that you started.
Last year.
Yes.
At this time last year. We started in September of last year.
Is it only that? It seems like it's a lot longer than that, Joanne. Yeah, but you moved mountains.
Well, 1 year prior, we were putting together the Temple Grandin and Friends.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Autism Works Now.
Yes.
So that was basically the kickoff event, which was May 20th, 2015.
Yes.
And Temple came, and we honored Temple, and it was a great event, and everyone on the spectrum was performing or presenting, or it was great.
It was a who's who,
and everybody in our community was there, and it was the kickoff for, because Temple spoke about it, is jobs.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I like to think it was the kind of the beginning of the movement.
Yeah.
Because people weren't really talking about jobs for our kids until then. Temple got on her platform. We all started rolling it out. I started, whenever I did interviews, I was talking about jobs. I love the arts, and I want to talk about the arts, but we're really good with the arts now. Arts are now an intervention, an accepted intervention for our kids with autism and related disorders, but not employment. People are like, my kid, he's not going to work.
Right.
That's where we were only a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So we've come a really long way, because the whole country's talking about employment now for people with disabilities, and specifically autism. So what we did was pilot. That was the event was a kickoff for the pilot, which was a 2-year pilot. So we're going into our 2nd year, and we wrote curriculum. My partner Susan Osborne and I wrote the curriculum as we moved through the program. Right. So we have an 8-month curriculum. It's assessment driven. It's a curriculum-based program. We have a book deal with Jessica Kingsley Publishers. We're 35 pages in.
Right.
So we're thrilled that we're writing up a storm.
Right.
All the template for the curriculum is going to be included in the book.
Great.
The Autism Works Now method book. We also received a Autism Speaks community grant.
Love
2016 that helped
Thanks
us a
to
lot.
them for that.
Thank you, Autism Speaks. They've been good to my organization.
Yes.
And we're in our 2nd year. And CARD, Doreen, because of Dr. Doreen, we now have we don't have an office overhead. She's generously donated her office space for us to hold our sessions on Thursdays.
Which is
I don't know
lovely.
if you knew that or not.
I did know that that was in the works, but I that was going to be one of my questions that I was going to ask you, if it, like, that all came to fruition and you got that.
It's crazy good. We
Love
start
it.
on October 6th.
Lovely.
And our sessions are 2-hour sessions from 6 to 8 p.m. And then we're also vendoring with the regional center here in Los Angeles, the West Side, and we'll also offer another session in Culver City.
So
we'll
for
have
people
two.
who aren't in California, I want to translate so you can know, so that you can further
Yes,
go, oh,
some
I'm bummed.
states don't have regional
But
centers.
for the regional center, when you're vendored with the regional center, that means that there, it is a cost, because it costs you money to be able to train these
That's
people.
right.
But it means that the regional center is going to pay that.
That's right.
So for the family, there's no cost or low cost, but usually no cost, right?
Right.
So that you can get your son or daughter in this program. And if you're watching and you're on the autism spectrum and you go, hey, I want a job, I want to do this, and you're over the age of 18,
17. We're
17.
Yeah, 17.
17.
Pre-employment skills to jobs is basically our
Okay.
mantra.
So 17 and up, and you can go to your regional center case provider and say, hey, I heard about Autism Works Now. I want to be able to do that. And then they can get you signed up for that program.
That's
And,
right.
and it will not cost you something. And
That's
I think that, a lot of times that alleviates some of the fear. Now, for those of you, though, who are like, okay, wait a second, that's great for California, but I don't have it. Joanne's got the book coming for you. So
Right.
that then you're going to have to take the book and get busy and started and creating that where you are, but you'll have the tools to do it.
And we're writing the book so that it can be used for educators in a secondary education
Great.
system. But then that doesn't mean it can't be used in families as well, and
Right.
parents won't be. It's going to be very user friendly with templates that we use in each of the sessions, because we continually assess during the session. So after they finish a session, a 6 to 8 session on a Thursday, then there's a little quiz. Did you understand what we were,
Right.
what the information was?
Right.
We want to check for understanding, continually check for understanding, because we want our kids to be. We start with getting an email account. That's the first thing we do,
Right.
because you can't have a job if you don't have an email account.
Right. Right.
We also teach through Google Docs, because Google Docs can be synced up to your phone.
Yeah.
You can carry your schedule around with you. You can know what you're doing today, tomorrow, this week, this month. You can look and say, oh, I have an interview 2 weeks down the road, or I have an interview tomorrow. What time do I need to begin to prepare for that? When do I leave my home for that? What kind of transportation do I take to get to the interview? How do I get the interview?
Yeah.
How do I know what kind of job I want to get an interview? All this is what the curriculum is. We have our candidates, we call them candidates, research the job they want. Not everybody wants to do the same thing. But do you know what that job really looks like?
Yeah.
Have you done the research on it? Have you gone to Google? Have you looked at it? Do you understand what it entails? What is a job description? Because these are the things that our kids don't know.
Right.
And people say to them at 14 in the state of California, or 16 in other states, oh, what do you want to do with your life? They don't even have frame of reference for that question.
Right.
Now you said she's going to take you to church.
Right. Go there.
You see, because the ITP process is failing our kids.
You got to back up
So-
and explain to people what ITP is.
Individualized Transition Plan. Just like the IEP, Individualized Education Plan, the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, in 1996, decided to include an amendment that said, oh, we need to start educating our kids, training our kids as to what they're going to do when they transition out of the public school system at 22 or 18 with a diploma. And so they said, well, how are we going to have accountability for that? And they said, well, we're going to put not only an IEP in place, which we all know what an IEP is. We all go once a year in a room and we say, what are the goals going to be? Where are the present levels of performance for my child? Has he hit his goals? Does he need that goal again? What is it going to look like in rehab and vocational? What is it going to look like in academic? What is his life going to look like socially? As they get older, we're now including what we call the ITP plan, Individualized Transition Plan. We're addressing what is his residence going to look like?
Right.
Where's he going to live? He's going to live at my house, the parents' house, or is he going to live independently or supported living? What is that going to look like? What is employment, most of all, important of all? What is his employment going to look like? And what is his social life? Those are the three domains that are accountable in the ITP. Okay, so you have an IEP, and then within the IEP comes the ITP.
Which in California starts at 14, and in other states, a lot of them it starts in 16.
The federal mandate is by 16, as per IDEA or IDEA, and this is a 2004 amendment, by 16, but can begin at 14. Your team, your IEP team, will now come together, and this is going to be part of what we're now putting our goals towards.
Right. But I just want to say that I never heard of an ITP until you said it. And there are a lot of parents that are watching that have never heard of ITP before, and you might have an 18-year-old. And you might have a 16-year-old and you haven't heard of the ITP.
That's the sad piece.
It is the sad piece. And since you talked about ITPs with Nancy and I, both Nancy and I went off to our IEPs and said, so what is our plan for our ITP?
And that's what you need to do.
Right? And both of us were told, oh, well, that's not until after he turns 16. And I said, nope, sorry, that's not right. And they were like, yeah, no, it is. And I said, no, I'll email you, that's not right. But that is the current way of thinking in our schools, that we will worry about that. We don't even start that until after they turn 16. I remember being old enough to look at the speed limit sign and go, why is it that we think of that as the slowest speed that we go when it says speed limit?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's the same thing with the ITP. It says it needs to be there by 16, and our schools are saying, no, we're going to start working on it afterward. Oh, that doesn't happen till high school. It's after the 16th birthday. And we as parents have to dig in and drive that, because the schools are not, they're not on that page.
Well, it's just more paperwork.
Right.
Because we're looking at another 5 to 10 pages in an IEP process.
Right.
And it means that everyone on the team has to begin to, and everyone on the team is supposed to be determining, including the IEP person, including the student.
Right.
Them
needs
at
to
the
be
meeting. Included in the meeting.
Right.
Should be at the meeting, because we should first address the individual with, what do you want to do?
Right.
You see, we're spending our whole lives with this individual telling him what we want him to do. And the ITP process empowers the individual again as to what he wants to do with his life. And it also means that his parents, anyone on the team, his caregivers, his educators, his special educators, a peer if a neighbor wants to come in because he's got a job, a business that this individual wants to maybe work at, he's invited. Don't let them tell you you can have anybody in an IEP.
And by the way, they will tell you that you can't bring everybody in the dog, but you can.
And you can. And you also can record it. And I love that piece. But you have to let them know ahead of time that you're recording. But you should always record. Just rule of thumb, you should always record your IEP
The thing that I always say is that when you get the invitation and you respond to the invitation and you check the box and sign that you're coming, write it right on there.
I will be recording.
I will be recording and give it back to them. And then I always follow it up with an email and say, by the way, this is my official notice to you that I will be recording at the meeting.
And they usually respond with, if you're recording, we're recording.
Yes.
So,
and everybody always feels like, oh, but I don't want to make it contentious. Then they think that, I'm going to be a problem. And I always say, it's all my experience is that it's all won and lost by whether you had the tape recorder or not. It is. It is. And you know what else it does? It forces everyone to be civil.
That's right.
I never have anybody in an IEP say the ridiculous things that you all write to me and tell me that I know are true, that people have said to you.
That's right.
And it forces us to go in and be a professional. I have to remind myself, there have been a couple of times when I have wanted to stand up and go, are you kidding me? But I've gone, Take that breath. That tape recorder is recording me as well.
Right.
And
right,
so we're
right.
going to keep it professional and keep it on the up and up. And you know what? That's what drives getting the proper services for your child, keeping it professional.
That's
and dotting your T's and dotting your I's, crossing your T's,
And
right?
just so you know, anyone, this is legal, anyone can stop the IEP meeting at any time.
That's good to know.
Did you
I don't
know
think that I knew that.
Legal is all they have to say is, I move to stop the IEP now and reconvene at another time.
Okay.
That's
Because
it.
sometimes you need that emotionally.
One person. It can
Okay.
be the parent, it can be a teacher, it can be an attorney, it can be an advocate, it can be anybody that's there with you. All they have to do is say, that's it, I move to adjourn the IEP meeting. In other words, if it gets too heated.
Yeah.
Because I've been in many IEPs where it gets, people are beginning to yell at each other.
Yeah.
No, we're stopping the IEP now.
Right. And sometimes it gets to the point where you feel like, you're going to go to the ugly cry. I've been there a couple of
Yes,
times where
yeah.
it was like,
Yes.
I don't know if I can talk because I'm going to cry.
I know.
When somebody reveals that they have let your child down in the most profound ways,
That's right.
it's like you've been stabbed.
That's right.
Like stabbed in the throat, and your voice kind of goes on you.
Yeah.
So good to know that we can
absolutely legal.
Okay.
And the other piece about the ITP that's legal, and it's supposed to be a federal mandate, I'm letting the cat out of the bag on this one, is there's supposed to be an outside service representative there, meaning Department of Rehab.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I bet that doesn't happen very often.
No, but I was just at a big old meeting where there was SSI, Department of Rehab and Social Services, coming out of Sacramento for California.
Okay.
And one of the Department of Rehab panelists kept saying, we're attending a lot of IEP meetings now. And I kept thinking, why are they, what is she talking about? I've never seen a Department of Rehab person at an IEP meeting. I've been doing it 25 years. And then I said, aha, everything's going to come to accountability now because the laws just changed in July. And they're really focusing in on these ITPs and how the employment is looking for our individuals with disabilities, which is dismal.
Right.
And so why did we 17, 20 years ago put in place an ITP plan so that we could get our kids working? And 20 years down the road, the feds are going, 90% of our kids with disabilities aren't working. I guess our ITP and our IDEA is not working. What are we going to do? Let's take a look at it.
And they're not there.
Okay. So they're hoping they won't go too far back, I guess. But hello.
Well, but and great that we're starting to get that kind of accountability. But we as parents and as individuals who are on the spectrum, we need to take some accountability ourselves and start asking for it and demanding it.
Absolutely. Also, something that comes to mind is, Department of Rehab is great, and they provide a wonderful service for our kids. And as you know, I'm to speak with someone in Washington that's head of special ed for Department of Education soon.
Yes.
And this is one of my talking points to her is, why are we putting Band-Aids over bullet holes? Why are we waiting for Department of Rehab to have to get our kids jobs?
Right.
I mean, it's like, what kind of crazy money are we wasting, for one thing?
Right.
And why aren't we training our kids to do job skill sets in the public school system?
Yes.
So that we don't have to wait till, Department of Rehab, here's my son.
Yeah.
He's now 24. He can't get a job.
Right.
Well, that's because at 14, when we should have been doing our homework and our job in a school system, we haven't been preparing him to work. Not only have we been not giving him the pre-employment skills that he needs in order to get a job, like how important is it to have an email address, and do you know how to schedule your life? But we haven't been training him to do anything either. So 18 to 22-year-olds are transitioning with no job skill set that equates to a zero paycheck. And then we're going, we'll wait for 2 years and he doesn't get a job. He's tried everywhere. Now we're going to pass him to Department of Rehab?
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's like it
starting the
doesn't
wrong
take a
way.
Rhodes Scholar.
Right.
Let's go back into the public school system, revamp how we're educating individuals with disabilities. If you're on a non-diploma track, then why aren't we teaching you how to do something that equates to a job?
Absolutely.
That's all I'm asking.
It's the question to ask.
It is
It's
the
amazing.
million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And so then I was writing an article for Autism Asperger's Digest.
Yes.
It took me 6 months to write, and it was a follow-up to A Seat at the Table that I wrote during the Temple Grandin and Friends event. And I was like, wait a minute, what happened to vocational training?
Yeah.
Because we used to have vocational training in our school systems, right?
Yes.
So I said, well, I Googled that question. What happened to vocational voc ed?
Yeah.
Well, now I know.
What happened?
In 2017, the country, as a country, came together and said, not everyone's going to go to college in 2017. I'm sorry.
I was like, well, that's a year from now.
1917.
1917
is
yes.
when vocational training centers came into being in this
Okay.
country. And so they said, well, in 1917, we should be training individuals
Yes.
to do jobs.
Right.
All individuals.
Yes.
There was no segregation. We're not talking about people with disabilities, non-people with disabilities. We're just talking about everybody.
Right.
Everybody might not be going an educational route. We should be training and teaching them in a public school system
Yes.
a job.
Yes.
Woodworking, metalworking, electricity.
Certainly existed when
plumbing.
I was in school.
Right, but not to the degree it used to. It
No,
started
that's
like
true.
fading off.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, 1917? Wow.
Yeah.
Research. It's the best education.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
best medicine ever. It's the power, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm like, well, then what happened to it?
Yeah.
Then I had to say, well, when did it all stop?
Right.
Like, what happened?
Yes.
Guess what happened?
I
And
know.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, tell me.
When Bush came in with No Child Left Behind in
Right.
2000, they made the accountability for credentialed teachers so high because it was to teach reading and to teach writing,
Right.
because we were losing so many of our kids to the streets
Okay.
and no jobs
Right.
and cradle to graving as
Right.
far as services go
Right.
for,
For anybody who had any kind of a disability.
Exactly,
Yes.
or no disability at all, just families.
Yes.
Whole families were being cradled to grave because with welfare.
Yes.
Because we lost them. They couldn't read and write. Can't read
Right.
and write.
Right.
Not a good shot at a job.
We're not setting them up for success.
Not setting up for
Yes.
success. So what happened was Bush's No Child Left Behind came in and said, that means we're going to have to ask more of our credentialed teachers in order to teach the kids that are not learning to read and not learning to do math.
Uh-huh.
How are we going to do that? We're going to up the credentialing process. We're going to make our teachers qualified.
Right.
That's when that whole saying, qualified credentialed teachers came in. Guess what?
That was
A
the
lot of
vocational.
our voc ed teachers were not qualified on the same level
Got it.
academically
Got it.
as because they taught woodworking, they
Right.
taught metalworking,
Right. So they didn't
taught
have a PhD in that.
skill
Right.
sets.
Right. They didn't have a master's degree in it.
That's right. And when their contracts came up for renewal and they transitioned or they just retired out of the system,
Yeah.
they were not replaced.
Okay.
So that's what happened to
Devastating.
vocational centers.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you're.
I did not know when I went in writing that article. I
Wow.
just didn't know why we didn't have him anymore. I thought maybe people didn't think there was a need anymore. Maybe they didn't want him anymore. No, they just faded away because they didn't meet the credentialing criteria. And nobody said anything. Nobody thought, well, how's that going to affect us 20 years down the road?
Right.
Now, 16 years
see.
down the road, we're going, aha, it's really affected us. And Washington's
back.
going, what happened to the ITP process?
Right. Okay.
Why are we not teaching and training our kids to do something? And they're like, well, we don't have any centers anymore.
Right. There's no.
How
place
can
to
we
put
do
them.
it?
Right. Wow, and this is why we're thrilled that Joanne's on the job, because I wouldn't know that, and I wouldn't know what to do about that, but she will, and will follow in your snowshoes.
Yes.
So where can people go to find out more about Autism Works Now?
On the site, autismworksnow.org.
Okay.
On the website.
So if you're in the Los Angeles area and you know someone that's a student that would like to participate in that, go
Email,
there.
call.
Yep, and then ask your regional center provider to get that set up for you. If you are anyplace else in the country, when's the book going to be done and out?
We deliver end of January, so
Okay.
it hasn't. In my last book, Autism Movement Therapy Method,
Right.
Autism Movement Therapy Method, we delivered in March, and it was out 6 months later.
Right.
So it's about a 6-month turnaround.
Okay.
So we're looking at July, I think,
Okay.
of
All right,
2017.
so a little less than a year, so you can start getting your ducks in a row and be ready for that, and be talking to people about who's going to run that program for you locally with the curriculum,
Exactly.
right?
We want it replicated.
Get it, start
the
getting your
goal.
ducks in a row for that. That's a wonderful thing to do.
The goal is replication across the globe.
And in the meantime, if you are not registered to vote, get registered to vote. If you have adult children who are on the autism spectrum, no. If you know people that are over the age of 18 that aren't registered to vote, it doesn't matter to me whether they're on the spectrum or not.
Right.
Get them registered
Rock
to vote.
the vote.
Rock the vote.
.org, I think it's a . They are a
Okay.
nonprofit, I believe.
Rockthevote.org.
And also, Disability Pride Parade,
Yes.
October 9th
October
in
9th,
Downey.
be there. Samantha and I will be there. Joanne will be there.
Rio will be there. Spencer will be there. Luke Rose will be there. Lacey Brink
So
will
come
be
be with
there.
us.
You've got to come
if
be
you
with
can
us.
be, and if you can't get to Downey, look and see if there's an event near you. Get involved.
It's the first Pride Parade, Disabilities Pride Parade in California.
Wonderful. But in other states, I know that they're doing Get the Vote events, and I know that they've got. It may not be with a disability attached to it, but they're doing, Get Out the Vote, and they have voting booths set up in different places.
Right.
Look in your area and go be there. And I don't care how old your child is,
Yes.
take them and have them visit those booths and practice.
Also look at the proposal agenda for both candidates that are now running.
Yes,
For
please.
President of the United States of America, and look at their disabilities agenda and their platform, because the Democratic candidate has a very thorough autism agenda.
Yes.
And it's well worth reading. Early intervention,
Yes.
early screening, all intervention developmental services needed, all the way through residential and employment encompasses, and that would be the Democratic candidate.
And we have had Tony Coelho on not on this show, although I want to invite him to come back and be on the show. We did an interview with him on The Future is Bright. He is an amazing individual,
He's great.
A former state representative for the state of California. He was one of the co-authors of ADA. An amazing gentleman who has been very vocal for the disability community, in particular the epilepsy community, because he has epilepsy.
That's right.
But he cares about all disabilities, and he is the Clinton advisor for disabilities. We've had him on the show. We have reached out to the Trump campaign to ask them for their person to come on. We've reached out to them to ask them for their policy, and we have yet to have heard anything back.
Yeah.
So, but we do want everyone, look, read, ask questions. We'll continue to ask them, and I hope that we'll be able to, present more information to you as we get closer to the election. But if you are an individual who's on the spectrum, or you care about somebody who's on the spectrum, there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake.
That's
so
right.
use your vote. We're
And
way
saying,
over time.
And we're
We're
saying
8
my
minutes over.
we are.
Yes.
My disability vote matters.
Okay,
That's our slogan.
Yeah, my disability vote matters. That's a good slogan. Fabulous. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my son's friend. And thank you for helping all of us to understand all the things you help us to understand.
It's always my pleasure.
ITP,
Always.
we all understand now. ITP, we've got more things to think about. Okay, we are not back next Wednesday because we are away at retreat. But guess what happens on Thursday? On Thursday, we are back, and we have got the show of all shows. We have Homeland Security joining us a week from today, and they're going to talk about being safe on the internet. We have a special agent on the show from Homeland Security to talk about, in particular, all the things that are happening on the internet and how we can get our kids safe. You are not going to want to miss it. That's a week from today. Be here, and I'll have pictures from the retreat. I don't think I'm getting on any of those high wires this year, but I'll let you know. All right? Say a little prayer for me that I don't think that I am young enough that I can do some of these crazy things these young people do. But we will be back then, and watch our Facebook post because we'll post some fun pictures from the retreat as well. Give yourselves a hug, but please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.
Lovely.